Module 4, Lesson 4. Forums are where we go to get help, seek advice, or figure out how to fix something. So let's bring it to the public. Let's have a conversation, starting with reflection and feedback. We learned in Module 2, reflection is essential to blended learning, and you'll revisit this concept again in Module 6. We also know a lot of conversation has been had around the mindset shift of failure being acceptable, part of the process, a learning experience. In Courageous Adventures, Ken Shelton's FAIL acronym is shared. FAIL, first attempt in learning. But accepting failure is only half of it. We actually need to use it to improve. For teachers, this can simply be what is working and what is not. Jenny Maggiera shares a great framework in her book to help teachers and coaches work through this process called the TIEP. She suggests starting with successes. There's always something that went right. Then move on to what didn't. And most importantly, work to identify why it didn't work. If planning or trying something new, ask what have you tried in the past, what worked, what didn't, and why. If something didn't work, then be purposeful and schedule a time to try it again, whether it's a lesson or tech tool that failed. Another suggestion is to get yourself a critical friend, that person that will give you honest feedback, because reflection requires some hard looks at what you're doing. Jennifer Gonzalez blog posted about what she terms Grecian urns. Those activities or lessons where the design, fluff, or prettiness overpowers the actual learning. Is this more about the hallway display? At what point did the learning actually stop, but the work continued? We all have lessons and activities like this, but are they serving the students? Now, she's quick to point out that Grecian urns are not always wholly bad or necessary to cut, but name it for what it is and have a conscious choice and reasoning for keeping it. Finally, teachers should reflect on their use of technology, and Liz Kolb's Triple E framework is a great evaluation tool. Let's not fall into that old habit of writing a tech lesson for observation. Ask, is the technology engaging, enhancing, or extending learning? Or is it actually a distraction from the learning? Is it the best way to learn this? Student reflection and metacognition are critical to learning, but are rarely given time. Provide that time. Prompt students, teach them how to reflect and think about their thinking. The ASCD provides some good guiding questions to start here. Present students with these questions and give them time to really answer. Liz Kolb reminds us technology use also requires metacognition and reflection. Too often, students are just put on programs or given a task with technology, but they aren't required to reflect or think about their thinking. Few tech tools have this kind of thing built in. The key is for the teacher to incorporate good teaching strategy into student tech use. Thinking routines like I think, I see, I wonder before diving in or while working. Use effective questioning, having students respond with technology. Build connections, sharing prior knowledge, asking their own questions, and visualizing their learning. Remember, social media. Learning is a social experience and process. Don't let technology rob the classroom of its social strengths. Then be sure you're building a classroom culture that accepts and uses failure to learn. Jenny Maggiera presents the concept of a fail fest, where students regularly share failures, get feedback and suggestions from their peers, share attempts and perseverance. There are great platforms out there for reflection and collecting student thoughts, from forums to blogs to Flipgrid and other screencasting tools. This not only gives teachers insight into students' thinking rather than just their final answer or product, but it gives the students a running record of their thinking as well and helps create that culture of failing and trying again. Digital portfolios are another great example of student reflection and of student curation, another important skill. You can use sites, slides, drawings, Drive, or even tools like Padlet or Wakelet. We've sat and reflected, now let's talk. Involve everyone in the forum conversation. Teacher to student feedback should be more constructive rather than summative. Current research says that when grades and comments are given, students do not attempt to rework their products. But when only comments are given, students do engage in that reworking process. So think about that when giving feedback. Then you need to get feedback from your students. An example student survey is linked here. After each unit or lesson, ask students specific questions about how it went and use that to improve your teaching. Then lean back on the norms and protocols you established in lesson 1 to produce student-to-student feedback loops. Students can provide very insightful suggestions and feedback to their peers, and often they listen to their peers a little bit more than they do their teacher. Now that our forum is going, can we put students in charge? We started with questions, so let's share that and hand that over first. A great place to start is 101questions.com and other ideas shared in Lesson 3. Use any of those ideas, but simply have the students ask questions rather than make observations. And don't limit or categorize or analyze or edit their questioning right now. Just let them get used to asking. To bump it up a level, maybe give your students the essential question and have them create supporting questions. And to advance it even further, mentioned in Lesson 3 are quest dones and quest runs from Jenny Magiera. Quest dones are questions that you can pretty much Google and be done with. Quest runs are investigations. They produce other questions. There's not one right answer, and they require evidence to support. Have students categorize their own questions. Additionally, using a questioning chart can help, but remember, intent is more important than form. So, don't pay too much attention to the levels on this chart. Just encourage students to use a variety of question starters to form different kinds of questions. You began with student choice in Module 3, but it can be a difficult concept to tackle. How can we gradually introduce it to make learning a shared experience with students in a leading role? Scott McCloud's 4-shift protocol devotes a section to student agency, asking questions like, who selected what is being learned and how? How is the learning demonstrated? Who chose the technology being used? Who's doing the talking, the working, the using of the technology? Do students have opportunities to create, go beyond, and insert themselves into their work? At a beginning level, start building student toolboxes and giving them choice in how they demonstrate their learning. How do you want to show me what you've learned? Show them different ways so they have that toolbox to make those choices from. And maybe start introducing different ways to learn so students can get to know their preferences. At the next level, introduce how to learn as a choice and start including their voice in what they learn. Now, they can't write your standards or curriculum, but using their questions to guide learning honors their voice. Students can also start curating resources and evidence of learning and work samples. And they can start to lead discussions, especially with tools like Flipgrid or Parlay or Kielo EDU, and the class norms you discussed in Lesson 1. At the next level, simply increase choice more. Introduce the choice of collaboration. Who or where could help us? Depending on your student's strengths, you may introduce different choices before others. But you can up the curation with digital portfolios here too. They can be created based on goals, essential questions, or ins and outs for your grade level. And they can grow into actual defenses of learning, like a thesis or dissertation defense. Now, what can we hand over in the classroom? At a beginner level, lean back on those level 1 norms. Make the classroom culture a very positive and inclusive experience. And our classroom jobs need to go beyond what they have been. Jobs should reflect important roles in the classroom. Try making them based on your missions or your norms rather than just tasks that need to be done around the room. At the next level, try introducing bright spot ambassadors. Let students find celebrations of community, content, and collaboration. They can be included in the weekly newsletter that students contribute to, or maybe eventually students can fully produce the newsletter with you as the contributor. Try to introduce peer-to-peer consultants, students that other students can seek out for help. At another level, in Hamish Brewer's book, He describes how one of his classrooms turned into an actual, fully functioning city, completely conceptualized, created, and run by students. And all of their jobs were to help that classroom city keep running. Or grow from your Bright Spot ambassadors and have a student run class social media account. At first, you could make posts, but then you should take a more moderating role. Let students actually make those posts to make those celebrations known. Start reflecting on how you can use reflection, feedback, and shared ownership of the classroom to help your students achieve everything they are capable of.